All right, we're back. Episode 60. Connor, you're calling in from someplace new. What are the new digs?
Yeah, so the call box is the same, but we're in the new HexCloud office right now. So I don't know if anyone doesn't know the evolution of HexCloud. We have been fulfilling out of LA in the Arts District for a really long time. So like when they got traction back in COVID, they moved into this new warehouse to do so. And they kind of like forced their way into this like office space over there as well. No windows in the entire building. So it's all this just like no natural light, just it's a warehouse. It is in no way an office. So we, with a lot of pent up demand, finally moved into a new office in downtown LA, which is a gorgeous new space. Definitely a space we're going to be able to like fill up over time. It's the third floor of the Spotify building right across from Girl on the Goat. And it's a gorgeous new space. So yeah, morale with HexCloud LA employees is quite high right now because we got this gorgeous new space to come into every day. So I'll definitely be out here more frequently now that there's space for everyone and space for the remote employees to come visit.
And how much does this increase the chance you move from Denver to Los Angeles?
I still think the mountains are too far away. So I think
0%?
Zero. I'd say
no
it
impact.
Increases the chance a few percentage points. But
small incremental lift.
I also want to shout out like the boys are coordinated today.
We're all wearing black t-shirts for
black
those
tees,
listening.
gang.
You look like we got like a boy band vibe going on.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Whose shirts are you guys wearing?
Mine's Flint and Tinder from my favorite online men's curation brand, Huckberry.
I don't know about mine. It's some sort of like kind of trendy brand. But I got it thrifted, so I always forget. Whatever. I'm not gonna be able to figure it out now. What about you,
I got
Cody?
True Classic on.
Dude, I could tell it was a True Classic tee. It's just like the ads. I'm like, you look buffer this week.
Appreciate that.
Okay, I just sent my entire team an email about this training that Motion's putting on, and you guys are going to block your calendars for this. Every operator I talk to is thinking about how to build lean teams and become more efficient. And AI is an obvious part of this. We talk about it on the marketing operators all the time because it can automate time-consuming parts of the creative strategy process. And Motion, our sponsor, they're doing a live virtual event series with 5 sessions on how to adapt timeless advertising principles to the new era of AI-first ad production. This is their legendary virtual event series, Make Ads That Convert. Last year, over 11,000 DTC marketers registered for it, and it is going to be a banger. Listen to these topics and just an elite cast of the best experts. You'll hear from names like Alex Cooper, Jimmy Slagle, Jacob Possell, Jared Denny, Kelly Rocklin, Morella Crespi, and Barry Hott. A few of the topics that they're going to go over: using AI for deep customer research, advanced prompting techniques for ads that don't look AI generated, making sure your AI ads actually sell physical products, using AI actors and voice models for scalable UGC, building a lean AI augmented team of 2025. Here's one session that really caught my eye. It features Kelly Rocklin, and she is going deep into using AI to make scalable UGC with AI actors and voiceovers without it sounding cringe, how to spin up high volume messaging tests using AI agents, super interested in what she's learned here, expand on what already works without replacing the human spark that makes it work in the first place, how to test creative like a craftsperson, not a chaos agent, how to build internal creative testing systems for your AI creative, just to name a few. It's going to be really, really good. Highly recommend registering. If you want to check it out, go register for this. It's free and it's 5 total sessions. You can register at motionapp.com/make-ads-that-convert. That is motionapp.com/make-ads-that-convert.
Before we get into the episode, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Motion, Rich Panel, Aftersell, Prescient, and Northbeam. All right, sweet. Well, guys, let's get into the episode. I've got a bunch of notes pulled up. This has come up on a couple calls. It came up with Krista from Takovas a couple weeks ago. We were talking about kind of go-to-market, the process of bringing things to market. And I'd love to dive pretty deep around that. Like, what are the meetings? What are the deliverables? How does that all come together at the end before you're launching a new product? Cody and I have some examples. Connor's got a bunch to talk about. So I kind of wanted to start there. I've got a bunch of stuff to screen share. So for those listening, we'll talk through it. I think this will be a palatable enough episode from an audio perspective. But if you want to tune in, there will be some visual examples. So I'd love to start like super high level, Cody. How do you guys define go-to-market at Jones Road Beauty? Is that even the term that you use? Like, I'd love to just start there.
We don't say go to market. We probably just say like product launch strategy, product launch campaign. But yeah, it's our, it starts with our product calendar. And then our first process, which I think is getting much more strategic. And we're even toying around with like, do we want a product marketing function? Because right now it's really the brand team that does that with some, product development. But it really starts with, we have like a deep dive, which is kind of like, or we call it kickoff now, which is like product marketing team, copywriter, Bobby, marketing operations, just like kind of brainstorming, understanding, asking questions just about what is this product? Why is it out there? Like just kind of like diving deep on everything. From there, we do like a 2-week meeting after that, where usually it's the brand team will pitch kind of like the campaign idea. If that is, goes well and is accepted, they work on that. The next step is we call it a PMC, positioning messaging copy. Actually, no, we have the creative brief first. Sorry. So the creative brief is essentially this giant document. Currently, it's in a slide, and really that is what our brand team briefs to the entire company, the entire team. So it just has everything about the product, all of the details, right? So like prices, what markets it's going to be in, the launch date, but it also has all of the copy. We call it positioning, messaging, and copy. So what is the product? What's the copy that we're saying about it? Or this is what briefs the copywriter. But it's very similar. Like what else is on the market? So like, what we have on the market, how this is different, what we're saying about this, what we're not saying. It's like an 80-page document usually. That gets briefed.
So that is the creative brief?
Yeah. So that's
an
the creative
80-page document?
Probably. It depends on the size of the launch, right?
And
it could be 5 pages.
And who's putting that together?
Our brand team owns that. Our brand team does our product marketing.
Okay. And that is, because I was also wondering what you would define as product marketing. Like if you were to build that function out more explicitly, like what type of person or like what would their responsibilities be?
Yeah. And we had a board meeting this week and we're considering it. Of like actually hiring a product marketing person. That I think it is wise. And what we're learning is we should have marketing in the product development process as early as possible. There are certain attributes that marketers know really well and do really well. And there are certain things that product people do well. And there's some overlap and there's probably some gaps between them. So just getting marketing more involved in the product process from earlier stage has a lot of benefits. It can even influence your go-to-market strategy and like what you're going to develop. But then also like how you position it, how you talk about it, how it's different. So I just think that's something that is not really like a brand marketer's like expertise or skill set. And they have the awareness of the market. They don't necessarily have the awareness of the product and the competitive landscape as much as a product marketing person would.
Totally. Yeah, it makes total sense. And then another, like, I want to like kind of lay it out really broadly and then we can kind of punch in at different pieces. You have this meeting, interfacing with the product team. You're getting the download on what the new product is, why it exists. Brand team owns then a creative brief, big document explaining all the key points of the product.
Yeah, which goes like pretty much everybody in the company. So it goes to marketing, goes to creative, goes to copyright, but like our retail team gets it as well.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then from the creative brief, assets are created.
We have one step in between, which is strategy. So we call it like the integrated strategy, where every channel owner has probably about 2 weeks to pretty much present their strategy and pitch their strategy and be like, hey, for this launch, here's what I'm going to do. Here's my creative strategy, or here's my media strategy. Here's my, email strategy, whatever it is. And then that gets reviewed pretty much either by myself or head of brand. And one of us will kind of input it. And then once we approve, align on it, adjust the goals, then people go and do that. Usually we do this all in, we do a lot of it in like a weekly marketing team leads meeting that we have. So after the creative brief, our creative director will share like creative assets. So all of our hero images, we're trying to do everything in Figma now. We stole this from you guys, but just trying to have everything in Figma where we have all of our assets. So, team knows what we have to work with for what videos we have, what, e-com assets we have, like what are our hero things, what's like the creative, kind of like vibe, for this campaign. So they'll share like their inspo and stuff like that. And then, yes, people will have a few weeks to kind of put together their assets. Eventually, that gets put all into a big Figma board or FigJam board, which is stolen from you. That's kind of, what you call the go-to-market board, I believe. And we review that. I review async first, and then we go over everything in that weekly Thursday meeting. And it's a great time. I'm loving the process because people have more visibility into what other people are working on. And it's just great to just have it all in one place and see the whole campaign together.
100%. Okay, cool. And we've got a couple examples of those that we'll walk through. Okay, so you've laid out the high level steps. I'm curious, when does the kickoff meeting with the product team happen relative to the launch of the product?
Dude, I don't know. I'm so like this is like knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses. Like I have a great team who handles all of this. I could not tell you when the dates are. It's probably 3 months out, and I feel like we're consistently trying to move it up, and we're trying to always play catch up and move it up, but it just doesn't seem like it's always that doable. But we're trying to move it up.
100%. Here, let me share my screen. I could talk through like our key steps. So I'll talk quickly about like how we call this go to market at Ridge. The full process really happens in 2 steps. We have something called product prequel, which is like conceptualizing products, getting iterations, approving samples, like all of that feedback, creating SKUs. We put creating packaging as a part of the product prequel. So like at the SKU level, all the steps that you have to do to prepare, we have like mapped out within Notion, and that's part of the product prequel guide. And importantly, that happens at the individual level. You need packaging for each individual product that you're launching. If you're launching, I'll give you an example. If we're launching a new color in a wallet, pen, and knife, then product prequel will be broken down by those 3 SKUs, and everything that we do is like related to, is done at that granular level. Then we switch to go to market, where we are launching those 3 products together. That might be the Basecamp Orange, launch is like that new color in these 3 new styles. Now, all of a sudden, we're really just talking about that campaign collectively rather than each one individually. So it changes a little bit through the whole process, but that's how we talk about it. What we're looking at here is just the time in between and the steps. So what Cody just laid out, I'll talk through as well. It's extremely similar for a product launch like a Basecamp Orange colorway launch. So we have different tiers. So we say, and you know what I'll also say here is this is all based off of our go-to-market review. So we're hoping to review these items at least 2 weeks before the launch of the product. So that is kind of what we're like backing into from a timeline perspective. And the way that we structured, we have different tiers. So a tier 1 launch, we want to be preparing earlier. Something like a tier 4 launch, we can begin preparing later just because it's way simpler and doesn't include nearly as many steps as we otherwise would. So in the case of tier 1, step number 1 is we want to write the marketing summary. This is also when we don't always do the product meetings that Cody, you described. We have an executive product summary. We'll get like written details from the team. We'll get these like really large briefs about what the product is, why we created it, who it's for, et cetera, et cetera. That's all done at the executive product summary. So the marketing summary can take that information. We're developing the summary. We're talking about what is a channel strategy, what are our key KPIs, things like that. That happens 9 weeks before go-to-market sign-off.
Who does that come from?
Great question. Yeah. So tier 1 currently comes from me. Some of the other tiers will divvy up with my VP of marketing.
And
And
with the way you said it first, I almost got the impression that came from like product or somebody else saying it's like the executive summary.
executive
Yeah, the
product
executive
summary.
Yeah.
Executive product summary comes from the product team.
Okay.
And that is
that's
like
just like details, right? That's not like strategy.
It's not strategy. No, it is just details of the product. They'll mention comps. It's like, it is the equivalent of your product kickoff that you talked about. It just happens more asynchronously at Ridge. So it includes all the information that we want. So the executive product summary does come from the product team. And that's almost the equivalent, Cody, of your product kickoff meeting. It just happens more asynchronously at Ridge. So just straight details, has comps in there, has specs of the product, all of that stuff. Marketing summary will come from myself or our VP of marketing. That's who handles all those summaries now, which works pretty well. I could see in the future us having more like marketing campaign director or something. We don't have a lot of like generalist positions at Ridge. We have like CMO, VP of marketing, and then we have a lot of channel directors. So they don't naturally become like marketing summary writers, which I think is a little bit more of a general position. So something we're thinking about. But yeah, so anyway, so tier 1 campaigns, the most important stuff, we're delivering summaries 9 weeks out. Tier 4, we're delivering 5 weeks out. And then you can see the different steps here, which like more or less align with what you just described. Summary becomes channel briefs, which is the strategy point that you hit on. Then it becomes creative mood board, which I guess is a little bit out of order. That's more the creative brief, shot list, shoot, retouching. Then we have basically 2 weeks to design like channel execution. We're actually designing emails, designing ads, designing social posts, whatever we need to do in that last 2 weeks before go to market. So that's roughly ours. Even our biggest, most important tier 1 campaigns, we're starting, just over 2 months out from a go to market review, which if you include the buffer we have between go to market and like the true launch of the campaign, I guess gets pretty close to that like 3-month target.
Yeah, like no one's gonna have the same exact process. It's actually like very similar. It's actually like pretty wild how similar it is. Like there's some slight differences based on team structure, but like you're hitting so many of the same things. And again, we've stolen some from you.
So Northbeam just released this new attribution model called Clicks and Views Enhanced, and I am really excited about it. I think it is really, really game-changing for brands measuring the performance of view-heavy channels like TikTok. So I want to explain first, what is the difference between this new model of attribution and Northbeam's other models of attribution? Northbeam's other models of attribution are probabilistic, and they're probabilistic because they're doing machine learning to make their best guess about where purchases, where revenue is coming from. What's different about this clicks and enhanced views is that because they're working directly with the platform, it's now deterministic. They're actually able to connect a real impression to a real purchase, which just means that ultimately this data is real data. It's not modeled data. That has really serious implications. What it means is that now, instead of only getting a 24-hour look on view-based attribution, you now get just as long of windows that you're getting on clicks-based. So now if you go to clicks and views, you'll notice that no matter how long you extend the click-based window in Northbeam, that view-based always stays at 1 day. When you now go into the clicks and enhanced views, you'll notice that whatever time window you're selecting is for views and clicks. So now in TikTok, you can actually measure a conversion 30, 60, 90 days from that impression, which again is really important for brands that have a lot of top of funnel happening through videos, and really important for brands that have longer consideration periods where that conversion often is not going to happen within that first 24 hours of seeing that video. I was just looking at this last night. I was simply selecting the same period of time and clicking back and forth between the 90-day click, 1-day view and the new enhanced clicks and views window that has 90-day click, 90-day view. And the amount of attribution in ROAS increase and revenue increase that I saw was really, really insightful. And I can't emphasize enough how important this is for channels that don't garner a click as much as a Facebook or Instagram ad or Google ad and are a lot more video view heavy like TikTok. So right now the clicks and views enhanced only covers TikTok and it's still in beta, but this attribution model is rolling out to other platforms very soon. If you want to check out the incredible results of the TikTok beta and just get more information on it in general, check out Northbeam's landing page at northbeam.io/clicks-and-views-enhanced.
How do you come up with the tier? So I'm assuming tier 1 is biggest revenue, for the year, like that's your biggest opportunity. Tier 4 is like a pretty small thing. Is that how it works?
That's a good question. Some of it's kind of gut and feel. We're going to talk about our power bank go-to-market, which we considered tier 1, but that's not necessarily because it was a huge revenue opportunity. It was almost like the comprehensiveness of the campaign required it being a tier 1. Yeah, so that's actually an example of like commercially, not necessarily the most important launch that we have, but comprehensively, it's like it requires most legwork. And then the flip side is like, yeah, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Father's Day, things like that. Those are tier 1 campaigns. So it's more about some weighting of like scope and commercial viability.
And how do you know, like, because so we tier and we go A, B, C, B minus, stuff like that. One thing we're trying to figure out, like, so ours is essentially based on revenue, but a little bit scope. Like, how do you know how big to go? Like, is there a templated playbook where like tier 1, this is how many ad concepts you create. Tier 2, this is how many you create. Or is it more of a conversation? Because that's something we're running into, even though we have tiers, like it's not probably as clear as it should be. So like we've got what for us would be a tier 3, but like a B minus launch, and we're creating 5 ad concepts, and then we've got an A and we're creating like 7, and it really should be like 20 and 2 probably.
Dude, totally. So here, I'll share my screen for this other example too, which is like kind of answers your question. This is like our tier summary list. So for each of the tiers, we have an associated amount of tasks. It doesn't answer the question of how many image ads or video ads to create. Like that's something more recently we've been discussing in the channel strategies, where we say, and again, there's a little bit of gut feel here, but given the tier, given the type of product, given what we know, all the historical information we have about previous launches, we could say like, oh yeah, we think this will require more video or require more static ads or, something like that. But what I'm sharing my screen here is like, it's almost like this waterfall where tier 3s have the fewest amount of tasks. There's 17 tasks here. And you're getting summaries, you're getting an unboxing video, you have some amount of hero creative, there's a studio shoot, etc. Tier 2 is when we say, okay, now there are image ads, there are video ads, there are display ads, there are things like that. And then tier 3 is only when you begin adding in a landing page, or this is when we start getting into like true campaign execution where we need updated email captures, email flows. We have, if we're partnering with everydaycarry.com, we're typically doing partnership ad reads for tier 1. So we get the partner ad read doc. So this is how we've spec'd it out so that, and again, it's not perfect, but it's a decent starting place of myself and the VP can go through, we can nail down tiers for all the launches for the rest of the year. And then the team can say, oh, hey, based on that, I can like roughly prepare that in Q3, there's 8 launches that will require video ads. And now I can better prepare for that. And that's how we kind of like connect the deliverables at the channel level to the tiers. And then ultimately that's getting supported by like, well, how much inventory did we buy? How much do we expect to sell is kind of informing all of that.
For sure. So, very similar.
Yeah. So totally Connor, I'm curious, how do you guys interface with the product team? I know you guys are launching a lot of new products pretty frequently. So like, what does that process look like? When does it start?
Yeah. So same as you guys, like Cody, I totally resonate with what you said about like knowing where your zone of genius is. Like I am not great at like saying, hey, here's the launch date. And then here's the 50 things we need to do to get to that launch date. And then backing into like the date that all those things need to be. I'm like, I want to be the one coming up with the list of things and like talking about the strategies that we're going to use to sell these things. We have an amazing PMO team that really like organizes and manages the process of all these things. But I'm like looking at one of the new products we are planning to launch in the next few weeks. And it all starts with our like product brief, and that's led by product marketing. That was due like roughly 6 weeks out. Now this is what I would consider to be like a B launch for us, where we're going to mainly sell it through retention. We might do some acquisition, but very light acquisition, if at all. Like static images, probably we might run like a product hype reel. that we're shooting for the website as well. We're not necessarily going to go out and shoot like a bunch of video, YouTube ads.
Or like build funnels and landers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're not going to do anything crazy like that. So that's happening about like, call it 6 weeks out. If it's like an A+ launch, that's happening way further out, like 3+ months out, because it's going to take a lot longer to produce those funnels. That is all led by product marketing. So this is like product name, product fact sheet, description, features. We'll have like key differentiators. We'll have like value prop hierarchy. We'll have messaging, like risks. We'll have like general assets, like content assets that we need. We'll have like a comparison chart. If it's like a variation of a new product, like here's what the barbecue pan is, the OG product versus this new version of it. Once we have that, then it comes to me, and then I'm going through all of our growth marketing channels and saying, all right, we're going to do our launch campaign strategy on email SMS. We're going to do our sustain strategy. We're going to add it to this automation. We're going to create a block, and doing that for every single channel, like very high level, like how are we going to activate on these channels? That then goes to each channel lead to review and either like add to it or say, hey, you said we should do like an email block. I actually don't think we should do it for A, B, or C reasons. And then once that happens, we will all circle up as a team to actually like chat through the strategies and make sure that what growth came up with is aligned with what product marketing thinks. And then from there, that's when we really said, okay, great, here's the things we're going to do. And that's when it gets pumped into our like project management system. So we actually make sure that all the different things are happening to lead up to that launch date. And all the right people are tapped in at all the different phases. And as you guys know, like, launching a new product, even if it's like a B or C launch, can have like, 150 subtasks with, 25 different people contributing to them, and like one person blocking it, one subtask blocks another 20 down the line. So that's when it goes into like our PMO system, and they're really good at having like very, very granular subtasks and due dates, like to the point where it's like revisions round 2, and then there's like 3 subtasks under that with like director of product marketing, head of growth, director of design, and like same thing if it requires a round 3, and then you basically get a notification or a task shows up in your ClickUp when it's your time to come in and contribute to this larger project. So that all kicks off that way. We do call it go to market. So like anything that's like a sale or a new product or like a larger campaign, like sweepstakes, we call it go to market. So all new products start with that product brief from our director of product marketing lead. And then anything like sale or evergreen campaign or non-evergreen campaign, that starts with a brief from me. Same thing. It's just like, here's all the relevant information. Here's the activation we're doing. I'll provide like specific channel level details if it's different than what we've done in the past. Great. Once we've agreed that that's the thing we're going to do, then it gets kicked over to our ClickUp system.
Totally. Okay. A couple quick questions. Product marketing, what does that person or team roll up into?
Product marketing is under the brand team.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like more commonly, like that's something I'm kicking around is like, if we hire it, is it under brand? Is it under product? I think I've seen it under marketing more often, but
yeah, we hired like we've kind of like beaten around the bush of this issue for years. At one point, we had someone whose their title is now product manager, but they were just called like product communicator or something, like, which is like basically, who is taking all the decisions that the product team just made are made for very specific reasons, but sometimes those are just made like sitting around a table, discussing it, or it's spread out over email threads or whatever. And like, who's actually consolidating all that information? Who is like the expert in this like new silhouette that was just designed and actually communicating that out? I mean, it's obviously and then who's also making it compelling to a consumer at the end of the day? And I feel like that's where product marketing becomes like a little bit more of the lead. But just that like handoff is so key. We've kind of been solving it from both sides.
Well, we had problems with that. Like, this has gotten so much more advanced today than it was a year ago, because for example, like value prop hierarchy, like that seems very simple. But prior to that, it was like, no, here's just like the laundry list of the value props. They're not necessarily in any order. And then you like get into your channel level production, and like your emails and your ads like feel very different in terms of the things that they're emphasizing. So it's even little decisions like that, or it's like, here's here's like the thing you should always lead with, no matter whether it's a paid ad or on website or an email, which has just ultimately made everything so much more cohesive. But like you figure out those things along the way. Like, wow, our ads and emails are both emphasizing very different messages right now. And like, even like key headlines now, like product marketing will have like 3 key headlines as a starting point that then our like senior, like copywriting lead will then go and like take as a starting point. Great. Now you have like consistency across like the actual marketing messaging you're using across your stack too. Like all these little things, like I feel like this product marketing brief just gets iterated on over and over and over and over again, but only through figuring out like, God, we did a terrible job of like message cohesiveness on this product. Like, why is that? Well, it's definitely like up funnel in the process and in terms of what was included in that brief. So we're constantly adding new rows to this thing. It's probably double the amount of rows in this like marketing copy table than it was a year and a half ago.
Yeah, 100%. We I've brought up this example a couple times. I brought it up with Krista too. One of our, I wouldn't say worst launches ever, but the launch that didn't perform well that we learned the most from was watches at the end of 2022. And like that was one of them where it was like we didn't lay the foundation of the campaign well enough so that like when we actually went to review it before going to market, it was like, oh yeah, the creative doesn't quite highlight the same value props that the email does, and the email doesn't sound like the SMS. So it's like a lot of this is like you start with this initial idea, and then what are like the processes and the checks and balances that like keep that consistent, like across multiple teams, across months of work. I think that's kind of like the ideal.
You have to like really spell it out, and like especially because these briefs are so long and there's so much information. Like you have to market to marketers. Like really, that's what the product marketer's job is like to do the marketing to the marketers. And like Bobby talks about this all the time because they had their wholesale and everything like that, and like they would create assets and like videos like to get the salespeople at the stores excited and stuff like that. But like it's the same thing internally. And it's all about like how clear you're being. And I think sometimes marketers don't think about that when they're just doing like internal communication. It's almost like it's not as good as it should be versus if they're like writing copy, they're like, this is my hook, this is my headline. But like you need that for clarity's sake, even internally. Like good communication is just good communication. And yeah, I found that like just a list of value props doesn't work. You have to be very clear, like this is 75% of what I want you to focus on. This is what you absolutely can't say. Like this is primary message. This is secondary messaging.
100%. Yeah, absolutely agree. One other question I had, Connor, on the workflow that you described, the summary that you deliver to your channel managers, and then they kind of like, you guys iterate on it from there. Like, how's that done? Is that just like a Word document that you're jotting notes into?
Yeah, basically it's a Word document with tables included. So it's like all the product marketing information lives above that. And that's what the director of product marketing is running lead on. And then it gets passed off to me, and it's like email SMS is its own row, paid social is its own row, affiliates its own row, influencers. So I'm basically making comments across every single channel. And the whole point is to like have done some thinking. So when we get into this like final meeting, which is like the final step before it goes into the actual like project management system, that we can have a really constructive conversation about it versus us getting to that call and our director of product marketing being like, oh, and Connor and Noah, like, what do you guys think we should do on email? It's like, no, we've done that work asynchronously. So then we can actually have a very like fun collaborative conversation on like, well, what does like the sustained strategy look like or whatever it is. So yeah, like it's been an iterative, like that's not how it always was, right? Like I had to be there sitting there being like, wait, it's not efficient for me to like, I didn't know you were going to ask me about this on this call. I haven't thought about it yet. Like, this isn't a good way to like think through strategically right now. So even that, like a simple thing like that is so important. And then we bake that into our PMO system, right? So it's like, I know before that call gets scheduled that like our template now has those steps written out in it. So every time now I know that I'm going to do that thinking before we get into that like final decision-making call. And I cannot emphasize how important and valuable having like a really solid PMO team is. Like the amount of time I've been able to not think about just like worrying about if so-and-so did the thing they needed to do by this date has been amazing. And it really lets your marketers and strategists do what they're best at, which is like be marketers and not, project managers, and like knocking on people's doors and saying like, hey, did you write this copy yet? Hey, did you review this asset yet? Like, I hate doing that stuff. There's other people that love it and are like really they thrive that way. And having that systematization that you can lean on and like just be confident that the thing's going to happen is, I mean, it's been probably one of the most important things we've done for all of these like very involved cross-functional, cross-departmental campaigns.
Is PMO project management and organization?
Yeah. Yep.
Strong acronym.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, cool. Oh, I had one last question for you, Connor. You do the summary, you talk about it with your team. When does that happen in relation to the creative? Because it sounded like it might be, are you informing the creative shot, or are you typically able to execute on your plan post-creative having been shot?
Yeah, good question. No, we are, creative's happening after the outline strategically, right? And that like very different creative requirements for like an A+ launch versus a C launch or a B launch. So yeah, it's like get the product brief from product marketing, outline the growth tactics, and then we go into, I shouldn't say that. There is some like creative outline happening during the product brief, but the actual shoot that we're doing in studio is happening once we've outlined all the activations we're doing across all of our channels to make sure that we're not missing anything.
Totally.
You've heard us talk about Prescient AI before. We work with them at Jones Road, but you still might be wondering, what is it? What is this MMM thing? At its core, Prescient really helps brands get more out of every marketing dollar that they're spending by showing them what's working, what's not, and where to spend their money next. The Prescient team knows modern marketing is a sum of many things: your media spend, seasonality, other marketing campaigns, consumer sentiment, and so much more. That's why they don't rely on pixels, biased platform measurement, or old research models to help you make the most confident decisions. They truly built their MMM from the ground up based on models that adapt to your data and evolve over time, not the other way around. If you want to measure the halo effect that your campaigns are having on all of your channels, I'm talking about e-commerce, Amazon, and even retail, then Prescient can help you out. You can test new channels, predict future performance of those channels, know how much you should be spending on each of them, and continuously optimize how you spend your budget to make it as efficient as possible, which, listen, we all need right now. You can do this all without sacrificing your upper funnel budget or bottom line KPIs. Prescient has proven to us how truly incremental and efficient some of our upper funnel channels like TVR that was very hard to measure prior to it. So if you've been wanting to try Prescient, they just upgraded their model, and their vision across measurement and retail is truly next level. They take marketing decision making where it's never been able to go to before. If you want to learn more and gain insights into how you can optimize your entire media mix in as little as 48 hours, then go to prescientai.com/operators and book a demo today. One thing I was going to say, and then I have a few questions. I know you like to say naming conventions are the heart and soul of a D2C brand. I think the project managers are really the unsung heroes. They're also pulling as much weight, I think, as important to a D2C brand. They're like the offensive line. Doesn't get a lot of credit, but they're doing a lot of the blocking and tackling, and the work doesn't happen without them.
100%. Like they have like this level of nuance and understanding in how things work together more than anyone else in the organization, because they see the interplay between everyone. And every once in a while, like our PMO team will like drop these bombs. I'm like, dang, like that was really like a really good idea, or like that's a really strategic direction to take this. And it's just the amount, like if you're a PMO, it's actually kind of a unique, I think would be like a unique early career choice in marketing, because there's no probably better way to understand how paid and email and brand and growth and all these things work well together, because they are the conduit between all these pieces. So Cody, I fully agree with that. And I think if I ever start my own brand one day, like a solid PMO lead is going to be like one of the first people that I would hire.
Maybe potential operator spinoff. Our fourth installment is project management operators. That'd be good.
I like that.
Yeah, no, I love it. Do you guys do any sort of like post-mortem after launch?
Good question. We've only done a handful. We've done it for tier ones for the last year, and we're just crossing. I think the first one we ever did was last Father's Day. So I got to review it just recently, and I'm like, fantastic. I'm like, this is so good to have. So now we're starting to do more, and we're just beginning to actually benefit from having done them.
How about you guys?
Yeah, well, it's not super systematized. What I'm doing a better job of now is ahead of launch, I'm actually outlining like reports that I want to pull, and then that actually gets baked into our project management system. So for example, like we just launched a kitchen tool set and there's some products that are natural products to upsell that on. So in the brief before launching, I was like, hey, make sure there's a task for me to pull the upsell take rate like a week after this thing's launched. And then I can be like, all right, great, here's the take rate. And now we have like, I can go to my CRO lead and be like, hey, you have a new KPI. It's like, get the take rate from this percent to this percent. But I think something we should probably do a better job of is just like more of a always on, like, here's the 10 things we pull after every product report on these intervals. I think that's something we need to work towards.
We do wins, losses, and opportunities. And like one of the extremely helpful data points was Q2. I talked about it on one of the podcasts we did in December, I think. We had a really difficult Q2, and I was trying to remember the exact details of why. But I mean, there are a bunch. But there's one in particular, and it was on Meta. We saw men disproportionately underperform early in the Father's Day period. We saw women gift giving get pulled back a lot. And it was like we had that data laid out really clearly in our post-mortem. So it was super easy to reference. And now we're going into this period like understanding exactly what we want to be looking for by gender across, Meta, our biggest ad channel. It's just like it ended up being extremely valuable. So that was like it wasn't something that we typically pull. We were mostly just like jotting down the anecdotal experience that we had so that we could reference it again in the future. And we're going to be slightly more prepared this year because of it.
Yeah, no, I'm finding it really helpful. So yeah, same for like Black Friday, stuff like that. We'll do like a Slack canvas or something like that, where it's just like what I realize is like if I'm tasked and I get like a task to like sit down and add things to a post-mortem board, I'm like, whatever. So I just need to have it available early and like even before launch. And we just have a board. We're now trying to do everything in Figma where I just screenshot anything I see, like customer complaint, feedback, things like that, like any random note that just like pops up either before the campaign, during it, customer feedback, or obviously when we go formally pull data, and we're just like tossing it in there. Yeah, I find it invaluable. And I think we started probably like around Black Friday last year. So I'm excited to have those insights. The other thing that we've done that's really helpful, we had Kat Cole, CEO of AG1, do like a lunch and learn with our team. And she shared this with me like personally a few times, is made my week difficult. So we just have actually our senior manager marketing ops. So she runs our marketing operations, which is our project management function. Just puts in our like marketing leadership Slack channel, what made your week difficult? And any channel owner is just encouraged to go in and really just share any blocker, right? And especially as it's related to something that they can help and solve with. And I think both you guys mentioned just like iterating and like how like your briefs or your documents are much longer than they used to be and different. Like to me, that's why I love this process, is because like I'm like never satisfied and there's always something you can do to improve upon it. So I just like have really wanted to have this like feedback culture where people are willing to share like, hey, this is my blocker, this is mine. And like, I don't know about you guys, like I do like async one-on-ones. So I do like a status update every week. And part of it is people will send me their blockers or they made my week difficult. And so many of them were operations things. And I would literally just screenshot them or like go talk to our head of marketing ops. So I was just like, I'm just going to go and send it to her. Like, let me just have the people bring it to her anyways. Like, obviously if they're my reports, they'll send it to me, but like, they know if it's like a marketing operations related thing, like, hey, I didn't have these assets in time, or I didn't have clarity about this thing, like whatever it is. And our marketing ops team is so great at that. They actually share it on the weekly meeting, which like, I think takes a lot of courage to be like, hey, this is a feedback that we got this week. And they don't always act on it. Sometimes it's like, hey, that was a one-time thing. But I just find that like weekly iterative feedback process and cycle, like over the long term has been so helpful.
So what made my week difficult is it shared publicly?
It is shared publicly amongst like our 10-person marketing leadership team. So in the channel and then on the meeting.
Yeah, super cool.
So Cody, I really like that you just send it right to your head of marketing operations. Is that person like when we hired our PMO lead, I don't know, a year and a half ago, maybe, one of the first things she did, she just sat down with me. She's like, what do you need help project management? Like the big thing is all these cross-departmental things, right? Sales, new products, big campaigns. And I just like word vomited to her and explained like, here's the things that need to happen for us to like launch a sale. Here's all the stakeholders involved, yada, yada, yada. And then she just like took that and like went and built out a system using like ClickUp. Is that kind of what, I mean, she's head title or their head title. So presumably pretty senior, but is it kind of the same thing? Like you send them these problems and they're like, oh, cool. Now that I know what the problem is, I can build like a system or a process that will avoid that problem in the future. Has that been your experience with this person? Are you actually also helping build the system? Like what's that involvement?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, she's been here for probably 2.5 years, and has kind of grown and advanced in her career. So she's taking on more, and she, wants to be director. So I'm definitely no longer saying, hey, this is the solution I want you to implement. It's more like, hey, here's the problem. I'm going to drop it on your lap. Come to me with solution.
Yeah.
So yeah, like she'll do that. Like one of the things, like even that time, like this entire process, like she had a big part in creating. But we realized stupidly, I don't know why we were ever doing this. We were actually doing the creative brief after some of the creative things had to be shot and done. It's just like the creative, like our large scale like campaign stuff was done ahead of time. So that was a different process. So like we, I was like, hey, this is the problem. This is what it is. Like, come to me with suggestions. You know what I mean? So yeah, she'll do that, and then I'll obviously just like provide feedback and approve. But yeah, that's to me the job. And it's just like, how can I make everybody else's life easier? How can I make sure they have the info they have, the assets, that they need, like whatever it is.
So there's a marketing operations person. Is there the equivalent of a product person? Like a product project manager?
There used to be.
Yeah, because I'm just curious. We've always had, it's been a couple years now, marketing operations essentially, and then they basically got absorbed, and we like centralized the project management function across product, across marketing, across operations, like but all those people kind of roll up into the same. It's our director of remote who oversees project management now, which is interesting because they're all experts in Notion, right? So it's like they all have similar skill sets. They're just using it to support like different facets of the organization.
Yeah. So we just consolidated marketing and creative operations. So we had them separate, and we realized like it's really one process, and they have to really be on the same cycle and timelines.
Totally.
So do you have, Connor, is your team basically like one piece of inspo we've taken from Ridge and from a few other brands is we are in the process of building a more central creative department that reports into brand, and then they service different parts of the org. And now instead of like the creative strategist or the email strategist having to be like dig all the way deep into like the nittiest grittiest of details, they're basically like, here are the problems to solve in this email or this ad. And then it's up to that designer to like create the version of that fits that mold. Right. So, and we're not quite there yet, but like, that's where we're headed. We just, like I said, hired this design director. So we're going to have all of like our designers report into him and have them service different parts of the org. We've done that similar thing with PMO, where basically PMO is its own organization. And then within PMO, they're basically servicing different parts of the org. Like we have a single PMO from the PMO or a single project manager from PMO that does all things web and CRO, a different one that does all things email, SMS. So are you basically saying you have like the centralized project management org that does that? They service everything?
100%. And it's a good, the creative team's a good analogy, like centralizing the designers, and then you have like dotted lines to email and web and whatever else. Exact same idea, centralized project managers. And then they're like, it's technically like a dotted line. The marketing project manager's a dotted line to me. She's helping me execute on what we need. But ultimately, like there's the director of remote is doing her one-on-ones and stuff.
Yep. Got it. Okay.
Cool. You guys want to look at a go-to-market board?
Yeah.
All right. Here, let me pull up. I'll go through. So like this will be, and I'll talk through it for everybody listening. But just an idea of like everything we just described, Cody mentioned this, is basically getting centralized in what we call our go-to-market board for. This is a tier 1 launch. So this was the power banks, which I mentioned. You can see the executive product summary up here. Who, what, how, why. We have a silhouette description and then 3 to 5 key features and benefits. Connor, you bring up a really good point. Like, I don't think this is a great example of like a great hierarchy or there's not great guidance as to like, this is the key message. We ended up like kind of nailing that down in our copywriting document, but it was a really great starting place. It's just brain dump of all the stuff we want. 3 to 5 key features and benefits. Then we have like literally all the features and specifications. We have the packaging. This is all the stuff that comes from the product team. We've got some comps of some other photos from other brands. What I don't have in here actually is like the actual marketing summary doesn't live in the go-to-market board. The steps in between the product summary and then these images that we're looking at are marketing summary, channel strategy, informing, mood board, shot list. And then this is what ultimately gets delivered. So there's like, I won't go on a whole spiel here, but like there's a lot of steps in between product summary to images that happen kind of offline and in different documents, all get tracked within Notion. But then we get here and we say, these are just selects. And then you get linked to the full digital asset management folder here. But you get a sense of what the vibe is. We've got the power banks shot. Marquez Brownlee played this really key role. And then what is a better example of, and I mentioned this earlier, we go from product summary to marketing summary. We end up generating creative. And then the 2 weeks before the go-to-market review, we have the ability to execute on all of the channel deliverables that we need. And all the channels have separate sections here to talk through what we're doing. So you can see like we have the full homepage mocked up. We have the full landing page built out as well as PDP. We have custom like below the fold elements. We've got the highlight of Marquez here. So that's all kind of a creative and e-com deliverable. We have an e-com op section, which is like, hey, this is how we're rolling it out. We've got the landing page. This is how the PDP looks. We have details here on where it's being upsold. So where are we building kits, whether it's our PDP or cart or post-purchase upsell, those notes get added here. So we just understand from an e-com perspective, once the products are built, how is that actually like coming together and being merchandised on the site? Got all of our PDP photography here. And then, yeah, I won't run through all of this. We don't need to see it like detail by detail, but email has a section in here. We look at organic social strategy. We look at our paid strategy. So we're looking at new ads. I don't know why we have previous ads here. I think we did 2 go-to-market reviews here. So we've got some new options. We've got some older options. We have videos linked in here, so we'll watch some of those. We had a partnership strategy. So that's linked here. Steven Shapiro, MKBHD were timed with the launch of the product. And then paid search, just talking through the strategy. And we're going through this on a call channel by channel saying, whether there's an opportunity to launch this in search, shopping, display, YouTube campaigns, things like that. And that is basically what we'll run through. And I think what this helps ensure is visual consistency is probably the biggest thing. Like them literally living on this board allows us to understand, like, does this look like the same visual representation across all these different channels, as well as from a messaging standpoint, like, are we making the messaging as coherent and cohesive as possible? So we've been doing this for like a year and a half now. It's also gotten bigger and bigger over time. And like I said, this is one of our more comprehensive launches. But it's what it looks like for us. It's been a year since we migrated to Rich Panel, and I had no idea how impactful the right customer service tool could be. Here's what our customer service team has achieved since making the move. 1, our order volume continues to rise, but our support tickets have not. Our self-service portal helps 47% of website visitors help themselves immediately without having to contact their agents. 2, their AI-powered social media moderator is awesome. We continue to spend a ton on Meta as a part of our marketing mix, and it flags and replies to thousands of comments automatically to help us make the most of our ad spend. Like many of you, I've been cautiously skeptical about certain automation and AI use cases, but our support quality hasn't dipped at all. It's actually gone up. We're at an all-time high of 96% customer satisfaction score. All this, and it's still 50% cheaper than other platforms. No limits on AI usage or tickets, and fair, predictable pricing each month. With market and tariff uncertainty, consumer confidence is in the gutter. You cannot afford bad customer experience or overpaying for older software tools. And migration is super simple. They handle your data import, agent training, and automation setup. You only need 2 or 3 calls and you're live in 14 days. They guarantee a 30% ticket reduction in the first 60 days or your money back, so it's a no-brainer. If you want happier customers and a happier finance team, head over to richpanel.com/demo to book a demo today. Cody, you said you have a similar Figma approach.
Yeah. Can I share?
Yeah, sure. Also,
Well,
any
I like
feedback
yours
on
better,
mine? And yeah. Well, I was going to say, you think we're missing anything? Any obvious?
No, I love it that it's in one place because we have a very similar things, but it's in many different places.
Totally. Yeah. We've been like what I say all the time, any key deliverable should live in either the Figma go-to-market board or that go-to-market board is linked in Notion, where that's where the marketing summary lives. And like basically everything the company ever does as it relates to launching anything should live at the end of the day in one of those two things. Like it just shouldn't be like buried in some drive or shared in Slack or whatever, like just single source of truth. And frankly, because the go-to-market board is linked within Notion, well, that is literally the source of truth. You can get to whatever you need from power banks in Notion. And I've just found that really valuable.
I agree with that. It's so simple, but I think, having one place where people can look. Otherwise, there's like so many Slack back and forth. Wait, what's the price of this product and what's that? It's like, just go look at the document.
Totally.
All right. So you're seeing this. So this is our creative brief. You seeing this?
Awesome.
So this is it, right? So it'll have, tier, launch date, really just starts with, table contents, all of the details. So what is the product? Why are we excited about it? Some calendar stuff that we'll lay out because if we're doing like a different teasing strategy, or different announcement strategy, we'll do that. Kind of like this was like a big one. So like we differentiated our brand marketing strategy from our product marketing strategy was a little bit different, but this is kind of like, hey, this is the focus, 75% of this. We talked about who we're trying to reach with this campaign. This was a little bit like for the creative team going into like the personas, our creative team will have a bigger kind of inspo visual board elsewhere, that they'll use for like their creative, but, have it a little bit in there. We'll have some assets that we have, some models, we'll go and just, timing of the launch and things like that. Again, this was like our biggest launch of the year. So this was like our biggest one. We will go into, again, we call it pillars, but these are essentially our value props, right? And it's like, we try to kind of do the hierarchy. So it's like, here's what to focus on for each of them. We'll compare it to like, if it's similar to another product, here's how to talk about it, and here's how we're comparing it against another product, because that's important for us. Here's like the market and how this is different from what's in the market. Here's who we're trying to reach. Again, here's more product differentiation between our other stuff. What we're saying about it. We have to change our other ones.
What's the title of this section?
Product differentiation.
Got it. Or just like what's slide 26 here?
Product overview.
Oh, product overview. All right. Yeah. Just deep product stuff. Yeah. Probably the equivalent of like executive product summary for us.
Yeah. So this is like, again, it's done by our marketing team. This is probably what like a product marketing team would do, but our brand marketing team is doing it.
Got it.
Messaging and copy. So this is essentially what it is, why we love it, how it's different. So we call this, positioning, messaging, copy, taglines, how to use, just like all of the different copy to pull from. PDP copy. Usually we just have some quotes in there that people can pull from Bobby, ingredients, pricing, all that stuff. And then, more, again, we're only on page 45, pricing, availability by region, all this stuff, additional considerations, this is tiers. So we even have a slide where we tier it by channel. Cause like for some launches, maybe it's an A for paid social, but for influencer, it's a B. So we'll even do that. Embargoes. So like, hey, this is like our teasing strategy or our announcement strategy. We gave it to influencer early or press early or something like that, just so people know. Retail, we'll brief them on some stuff. Again, we're on page 53. And then this is where we get to the integrated marketing slide. So I think the creative brief can probably stay in here. I would like to pull these into Figma. These are essentially people will put their strategy by each one. And then again, this either gets reviewed by me or head of brand, where it's pretty much everything, that we have in here in terms of just like pretty much what you showed in Figma. So we have that all in there. And then we go into our creative director will share, so we have this just in Figma. It's a different launch, but like, here's all of our images we have just so everybody can pull. And like, we had them in Dropbox before, but just found it's really helpful to have it in one place. So we can just kind of these are for some upcoming ones. Just here are all the assets. And I've also found this is really helpful to have to send to an agency or something like that. Like what I found is when we have this and we have some like even of like the direction of the campaign, like even sending it to like an agency who's building some statics, like they were able to get things looking much better and more on brand than if we just like sent them a Dropbox folder.
Totally.
So we've got that. And then again, once the slides are done and the integrated strategy is done, people have the 2 to 3 weeks, and this is very similar to what you have, where we just have things split out. So I'll usually go in there, async like the night before the meeting, just kind of leave some comments. Any feedback that I have, we'll go through that live in the meeting, but pretty much same thing, right? You got emails, you got video, any landing pages, homepage, emails, social, all that kind of stuff. And then here's like an example of what we did for a post-mortem. So just had it overall, how do we do against overall forecast? Cool. Had our data team, our data person pull some stats, some retention stats, top emails, bottom emails, link to some motion reports in here, some screenshots, links to them, top ads, motion reports. Like we look at quiz data, just like any data we have. This is a little bit more of like the subjective feedback. What would we get in customer feedback? What are they saying? Just like any bits of feedback that we have, any review data. We ran like a lift test on Meta, so we have that in there. I just think this can all be in one place. So I think that the three things I shared, like you do a really good job having them all in one place, and we have like different Figma boards, like 3 different ones. So I'm going to steal what you guys have a little bit further.
Yeah, dude, it is so good. My first question is, was that a top tier launch? A++?
Yeah, that was like one of our biggest of the year. Yeah.
Was that the one that came out in April?
Yeah, that was
okay. Got it. Yeah. It looks fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
How has it gone? What's the post-mortem?
It's gone all right. It's gone all right. Not exactly what we wanted. It's we didn't hit the same, again, it's just a challenging time in general. Mm-hmm. We didn't hit the same peak that we wanted, like launch week, but we've actually been catching up and like beating it in the following weeks, cool. Which is interesting. Not entirely sure why. We're catching up, but like we had the post-mortem, I think probably a week and a half ago. And we're trying to think about like what's our strategy going forward, and like what can we learn from it? Where do we need to pivot our messaging? How do we share what's working on email to paid social or e-com? So got some work to do, but got some promising signs.
What you laid out was like so comprehensive. My first thought is like, how many times can you possibly do that a year?
For like that full thing. I mean, that's an A. So we probably have 4 A launches a year.
Yeah.
Probably.
That's so great. I mean, that's fantastic.
But yeah, that's our big one. We're not going that in depth. We'll probably do that. Like, for example, we did getting our results back tomorrow, but like out of home, like we'll probably do that like 3-4 times a year. So I think that's probably like once a quarter we have the bandwidth to be able to do that.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Are those results through house, Cody? Is that what you mean by you're getting your results back tomorrow?
Yeah, I can't wait. And I am so bad with patience, but Nick slacked me today and he just said, OOH results looking solid, ...
Dude, Nick's done that to us too. And I'm like, dude, you can't do that. It's even worse when he's not giving the actual data.
That's hilarious.
Totally. And I'm like, what does solid mean?
Okay, I have one other question. You kind of hit on it. You guys had brand messaging and product messaging. We've gone back and forth around that also. We write copy at the silhouette level. So like if we're launching knives, like what do we want to say about the knife specifically? And then the brand messaging would be like, what do knives mean for the Ridge brand? Like, if it's a matter of you like being prepared, that's a little bit different than like the drop point blade on the knife. So do you guys often distinguish between that? Is that the same copywriter working on that? How does that work?
Same copywriter. We only have one copywriter, but I would say like our brand team will write some copy too. No, I think we're trying to do brand campaigns, what we would consider a brand campaign, like around the big launches. I think we realized like we're not big enough or have the resources to do like separate brand campaigns, but I think big launches that we think get like the full A tier thing, which is like this one, we had net new TV ads, we had out of home for, we had a much bigger strategy. Like we had a brand campaign that was how are we. Yeah, well, I guess I don't know how to describe it without saying the name, but like not just here's this product, it's here, but like, the campaign was just enough for, and it was kind of for the different personas that it fits in its life. So we wanted to be really clear to our team, like this is the brand campaign. Here's just like the lifestyle vision, almost like Tecovas, right? They had a brand campaign with their work boot, where it wasn't just product focused, but it's like here's a lifestyle we want to get people to buy into.
The lifestyle that you want people to buy into, stemming from this new just enough product.
Yeah. But that's very different messaging than the product marketing of
100%.
Here's how this is differentiated.
100%. Yeah. And I think that's just a distinction we've been trying to make more and more. It's like, when do you want to be speaking literally about, we call it the silhouette of the product? What are the specifications of the just enough tinted moisturizer versus, yeah, I said, what do knives mean for the Ridge brand? But it could just as easily be phrased as, what is the lifestyle we want someone buying into?
Yeah, but like if we're launching, 2 new shades of, right, like a lip pencil, right, which we did earlier in the year, like there's not a brand campaign associated with that, right? Like we might have one social video, so it's almost all product marketing at that point.
100%. Yeah, that's a great point. Connor, what do you think?
I mean, that is so thorough. What you just shared, that is such a good thing to work towards for any brand out there. And that's why I asked you guys to send me this a few weeks back, because that's what we're trying to work towards. And we have everything in a single spot, in the sense that, like, if you want to go into our Mother's Day sale board in ClickUp, everything you need is going to be in there. Pricing, the brief, the copy, it's all going to be in there. Like, all the information you two just shared will be in there. But what I don't like is that it's not visual at all, right? I mean, it's literally, ClickUp's just literally a list of tasks and subtasks, and there's files embedded, which is good because you have like a single source of truth to go to find whatever information you need. And then it's also obviously a project management system, so you can see what's done, what's not done, what's being worked on, yada, yada, yada. But what we're working towards is trying to build some sort of like Figma board that's organized by funnel. So, like visually speaking, at the top, you have your ads, you have your influencer posts, you have your affiliate content publisher articles. Then a little bit lower, you have your emails, you have your text. A little bit lower, you have your web experience, your collection page, your homepage, your checkout. So we're going to start organizing, like, as a final step into launching a sale like that, and then come back in at the end and add in some data the same way that you did, Cody, where it's like, here's how ads performed this year versus last. Here's total business performance this year versus last. Here's the revenue and RPU on all the emails. So that's what we're working towards, is getting it, like, we already are doing it in the sense that it's all organized in ClickUp. Now we just need to take it out of ClickUp, put it all into a Figma file. So It's actually set up in a way that how a funnel is set up, and it's visual in that sense. And I think that'll also help us fill in gaps where it's like, oh, actually the web experience isn't cohesive from the emails and ads here. And sometimes you can only get that by seeing them right next to each other versus those 2 separate ClickUp items where you're never going to be looking at that email with that landing page experience side by side.
Dude, it's crazy because, like, even having it in Google, presentation, Google Docs, where like you have ecom on one and then like the next one is like email. People like just one above each other. People don't see them, or you don't see it at the same time, versus just having them on the same board side by side.
Yeah.
Like, it's so simple, but it makes that big of a difference.
Totally. And we finally just got this director of design who is going to own, like, bringing all these things together. One of the things he did for Mother's Day sale is he created this design toolkit, which is, it's basically just like elements that you will see then throughout our entire funnel. So like the green hex color that you see across like our website and emails, like that's in the toolkit. There's this like headline lockup. There's like a call out badge. Just the overall like background with nothing on it is in there. There's a few different treatments of that. There's he actually did make some fleshed out ads that we can then pull and like swap in new products and different copy. There's some end screens in here, or end cards for various assets. So we are starting to do that as a preliminary step to actually building out like all the channel level assets. That way there is just a lot of cohesiveness and a lot of consistency across email and ads. And prior to that, that wasn't really happening. There was some disjointedness. So having that toolkit to start, and then it goes with the channel level designers, and then that makes their lives easier too, because they're not designing all these things from scratch. They're taking the toolkit and pumping it into their channels, and it just makes our whole team more efficient.
Most brands are optimizing their transaction journey, but stopping short of the thank you page. And I think that's a huge mistake. Listen, you work hard to drive results with upsells, but if you're not monetizing your post-purchase flow, then you're leaving easy profit on the table. Aftersell is changing that. We've been using their Rock Thanks, which is formerly Network Offers at Jones Road, for a while now, and it's been a no-brainer for us. Here's how it works. On your post-purchase page, you can show premium, non-competing offers from mega brands like Disney Plus, HelloFresh, and a lot more just on your order confirmation page after somebody makes a purchase. So it's guaranteed to not affect your conversion rate at all, just adds incremental profit. Their AI-driven personalization picks from the best offer based on the data for hundreds of reputable advertisers, and you can earn 20 to 40 cents in profit every time a customer clicks yes, please. Again, this is just post-purchase after people have already purchased, but do the math, 20 to 40 cents per order. That adds up over time and can get you something really good. The numbers speak for themselves. After-sale customers generate 20 to 30K in pure profit per 100,000 orders. I can verify that that's true, and that's what we're seeing on the low end for us. There's a 16% average engagement rate, which is 7 times better than traditional ads. And again, it's a net new revenue stream without disrupting anything pre-purchase. We've seen this work firsthand at Jones Road. It's an easy win, and it's completely free to try. Plus, Aftersell is hooking up marketing operators listeners. If you sign up today, you can get their entire upselling suite free for a year. That's post-purchase, pre-purchase, checkout, all that stuff, all included if you sign up today for being a marketing operators listener. Just go visit aftersell.com/operators to try Rock Thanks and see the money start rolling in. So stop leaving money on the table. Turn your thank you page into a profit center with Aftersell today.
You know, so we've been hitting on that a lot too, which is a little bit different. Like I've been telling my creative team, I honestly think we rely too much on asset production, and we should be more creative with like what I would call what you're describing is like graphic treatment. And here, I'll share another screen. I've got this super sloppy art and inspo board that I like throw examples on, but I bring this one up all the time. It's from Huckberry. I think Huckberry's the best at this. So you probably realize this, Connor, but like this was their Memorial Day sale last year. And I'm like, look, I don't think they shot Memorial Day. I'm sure is a really big period for them. I don't know if they shot one new asset the whole time. Like this probably existed. And then they're just creating like a visual strategy to like tie everything together. You get the orange, you get the font that they're using, you get the highlights, and then these are 3 emails, and like these are I think different parts of emails or ads. I've got another example on here.
Even down to that, like that kind of like scratchiness in the orange, like you have it in a single place, and now that infiltrates the entire marketing stack.
Yeah, 100. That's a good point. Yeah, totally. And then they do this, like their winter sale was like equally, it's like, okay, you've got some colors, you've got some selects. These assets probably existed, these like guys with this Jeep. And it's like, oh yeah, you can put together a really compelling, comprehensive, visually cohesive sale without like weeks of prep and spending a bunch of money on creative. And I think we have overlooked that for a long time. And I'm trying to like push my team more in that direction of like, let's creative problem solve like much later down the funnel versus trying to figure out what is like the sexy new campaign that we need like a 3-day shoot for or something.
Yeah. And also how many, if you don't do this like toolkit, this like branding toolkit up front, you likely end up with multiple designers or editors trying to solve the same problem in a silo. Like in like the email designer might be trying to solve a similar problem that your paid ad designer is. And like, that's just inefficient. So it's like allowed us to, it seems like more work, but in reality, it's just a little bit more work up front that should save way more time as you get into all the channel specific stuff.
So you know what? I'm trying to find the example. Here, if you guys give me 1 second.
All right. Well, while you do that, I'll just like piggyback on that. Dude, totally agree. So for whatever reason, we were idiots and we decided to launch something called the Beach Vacation Kit as part of our holiday collection last year. We always had like a winter summer vibe. So we had like Aspen in Miami one year, sold out. So whatever. So we had 25,000 beach vacation kits left after holiday. So we're going to like bring them back this summer. But obviously all the stuff we have we shot in November as holiday. And I don't really feel like taking, the time and the money to do a shoot for it. So we did some internal stuff. I don't have like the full vision again, because this is a perfect example of all having it in different Figma boards or different places. Mm-hmm. But like our creative team has that like toolkit that's like, here's our visual identity for this campaign. But I can at least show you like the emails that turned out from it. So the only new shoots that we did were internal, just like our internal video and design team with like, they got these like chair and props and stuff like that. But like, this is all the same thing. A lot of AI in there as well. So like this is obviously AI, where it's just like we had the bots, but
Totally.
it just gets
Dude, I
overlaid
love
in
it.
that. And like, that's all AI.
Yeah.
That was shot, but like that's becoming like a hero for it. So just an example to kind of show the point that you're making, that like it's very possible and doable to like be scrappy with it.
100%. Okay, so I'm going to make like a super similar point here. We're preparing for our Memorial Day sale. Memorial Day is one where it's like, it's an important period. It's not tied to any new product specifically. So it's like we probably, like I don't love the idea that we'd have to rely on a ton of work in the studio or hiring models or any of that, where I'm like, really, this is about our core products being on promo for the first time in a couple months. How do we hit that with the sort of summer type of feel while utilizing, like, we've been shooting assets for 10 years or whatever. So this is like, we pulled out, this is a very old photo. This is originally from us. So like, that's our Ridge duffel. And it's just like cool, feels very summery. For those listening, it's this guy jumping off of a dock. And then there's a Ridge duffel there with some canoe paddles, like leaning on top of it. I was like, this kind of sets this theoretically could set the tone for Memorial Day. Like, this feels like a hero shot. And then just with like, prompting that into ChatGPT, I was like, can we just create more complementary stuff? Like, what would it be if we like zoomed in on the buoy? What would it be if we removed the dock? What is a shot of the shore? So these are all different assets that we created with AI from that original image. And so, Cody, you just kind of hit this point, but like, we're at this period of time where you need even less of like that content seeding to like pull it even further across channels. You used to have to get really creative. Like the Huckberry example, it's mostly relying on colors and fonts and like styling. But now we're at this point where like, if you have one image that you like, you can kind of prompt that into at least 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 assets. And you could very quickly see how that becomes like a very compelling, comprehensive campaign across all channels. With like, I did these shots during stand-up for like 30 minutes. I was just like plugging away in ChatGPT, and it's like, if you spend more time doing that, I mean, it could get even better.
This is all in ChatGPT. No, like this was not using any other separate tool, just in like the core.
Mm-hmm.
Really, that's awesome.
I love it. Yeah, one thing too that you said that stuck with me. I think this was in like January. We were talking about Icon for the first time, and you're talking about like somebody in your creative strategist making ads with it, and you're like, it's not excited that it's not that exciting that like anyone can make ads. It's like exciting that he can do it.
Right.
And like, that's how I feel with a lot of the AI stuff. Like, it's cool that you can do it and you can just go prompt it, or I can, or somebody else can.
Yeah, dude. And I would love to go. We'll have to go deeper on an AI episode in the future. You were talking about copywriting today on Twitter, but like, where I think this relates to go to market is like, we're talking about like weeks of work and all these handoffs. And one of you guys made the point really early on that it's so easy to dilute the meaning, or like the original concept, or like what makes it unique. Like, what is the message you want to say? It's so easy for that to be diluted over time across different copywriters, different channel managers, et cetera, et cetera. I think AI is at this point where like, I write a lot of the copy with AI, and I'm able to go straight from marketing summary to an incredibly comprehensive copywriting document in like 40 minutes or something. And I think there's even a scenario where that becomes like the e-com and email briefs. And it's like one person can sit there and take their initial idea and concept and pull it really far down funnel and get what is multiple handoffs and weeks of work done in like a sitting. And I think that's kind of crazy.
Oh, dude, I'm trying to help like my brand team and like copy team to streamline, because again, you see that beast of the creative brief. And so I'm going to sit them down like later so we can just show like how I would use AI to do it. But it's pretty much like taking the Fireflies recording or like voice note of the kickoff, where you have like an hour brainstorm talking about the product. You have all the product details, just giving that to ChatGPT, say, hey, this is a past creative brief. Use this information about this. You know, you put it in the format of this creative brief and go do it. And I think you said you did something similar. I know you said you like you record a Loom, you upload it to Gemini, do that. You know, I'll do a very similar thing. I'll use this app. I think it's called Flow or Whisper, where it's essentially just like you click a button on your computer and it's just like you speak, and then it just transcribes that and put it in. So I'll do that with ChatGPT all the time. So yeah, I agree. You can just take past work that you've done, give it a little bit more context, and then just get a ton of output.
Yeah. 100%.
Can I say one thing about the design toolkit? Because I just want to second Connor's point to that. That's something we are working on as well for our design team as it scales. We've got more designers. We're trying to do a lot of web testing, and I realize, especially we've been struggling with some new PDP rebuilds and working with a new UX designer and dev team, and we finally got probably way too far into the process, and it just wasn't totally looking right, and we were just we just need to take the time. And the dev team even gave us feedback it would help if we had this from your team, if we knew exactly what it was. And so we did it. We essentially had our internal design team redesign the PDP. We kind of fixed our typography because we never loved some of it, and kind of redid the PDP. We're working on that kind of design, the toolkit or system. We're starting with ecom, but we're going to go into everywhere. Here's what we do for email, things like that, because we're really trying to scale and add more designers and move faster. And so far, dude, it's been insanely helpful. The UX designer from the agency sent some designs back, and they were just so much crisper, so much more on brand and things like that. So I can't, I can't stress the importance of that. And it's one of those things where it's too much process sucks. Don't add too much process, but sometimes you got to add enough, and it actually helps you move faster when you nail it from the beginning.
100%. I mean, I liked what you said earlier about looking at the go-to-market board, and you're it's helpful to send to agencies because you've completely connected the dots for the Just Enough launch, where it's these are the personas, this is what we wanted to look at. You can look at all these things together, and you're just going to get a way better sense of what our, it's the equivalent of did you call it a design playbook?
It's either a toolkit or a design system.
Yeah, sure. Design system. It's the go-to-market board for the Just Enough tint moisturizer is basically the equivalent of the design system for that one launch. You can just share that and be this is what stuff should look like if it's going to fit into our ecosystem.
Yeah, I've been big on that. We're also working on a ad creative agency thing where it's we just have because I found that we were anytime we brought on a new agency, and we brought on a few to test out, we were pulling the same stuff over and over. They're all asking, what are your top ads? What are your value props? Where's your research? Give us your reviews. Give us your brand fonts. Give us your do's and don'ts. So we just been stacking it all together and just continuing to add it. So then if we have a new employee, new agency, it's just boom, here's the thing.
Yeah, okay. So I'll say one thing quickly, and then we could put a wrap on this pretty soon, but it's related to go-to-market. I'd love your guys' thoughts, because what we just talked about, power banks or Just Enough, are great examples of hey, we've put together key value props, key messaging. That's across all channels. You can ensure that at the initial launch, you have that cohesiveness. You'd like to think that 9 months from now, 12 months from now, we will have identified new value props, or there might be a different hierarchy or a different sort of visual language that we're finding to work better. So do you guys have any systems in place for it's almost the equivalent of, Connor, if you guys were going to relaunch one of the pan sets, that you would do that and ensure that everything you've learned over the last year, 2, 3 years, is reconsidered and re-implemented across all channels. Do you guys do any sort of refreshes like that?
And something where we take all of our learnings and put it in a single spot, so we're not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, it's almost like recreating a go-to-market event, but given all the new information that you have. We're in the midst of doing it for travel. We've had travel for 18 months now. We had a certain understanding of the product, and we rolled it out in a certain way at the end of 2023. But today we've learned so much, but those learnings aren't properly applied across all channels. So it's almost like we need to redo the executive product summary, the marketing summary, and then re-implement so that we have what we feel is the best information consistently across all channels.
I wouldn't say we have a great system for doing it. There's been cases where we've gone back and done a retrospect and then created a new strategy based on that. So for example, last year when we were thinking about, all right, what takes knives to the next level? What are the things we need to do? The first step was just looking, all right, the last 12 months, what have we done for knives? What's the performance of knives been? When have they sold the best? What are the tactics that are performing the best and all the KPIs associated with them? And then using that as a jumping off point to decide, all right, the next 12 months looks like this. So not necessarily a relaunch as much as hey, how do we continue this growth here? And that involved doing a retrospect to understand what we have done and what we've learned and what's working and not working. And then that guides the roadmap moving forward. We've done it for we have done it for Hex Mills. Like when we launched Hex Mills, oh man, I think it was early 2023. Like it was a very underwhelming launch, and we all were like, "This is one of the coolest products we've ever made," and we probably just didn't like message this thing the right way or activate on the right channel. So that was a situation where we were going back and doing a retrospect from the perspective of this launch sucked. We know we can be better. Like so, we audited the messaging, we audited the channel level tactics, and then we rolled out new tactics to like really enhance growth, and it worked really well. So we will do it, but it like that situation was a lot more reactive than it was, hey, we have this always on like information gathering and consolidation process that we just always do for every single thing. But we should.
Yeah. I was just curious. It's something I frankly, I don't think we do really well at all. Our paid social team, which is like, that's obviously the channel that is iterating the most. There's like 100 ads a week going up or whatever. So they always have the freshest stuff. It's how does that kind of trickle back up or whatever? Like, I don't know which way it's going, trickling down, trickling up to refreshing the email welcome series for wallets or rings or travel or our landing pages and things like that. Like, how are we just making that feedback loop as fast, and then once we have something significant, like as comprehensive as possible? Just things I'm thinking about. Dude, I think this was a super fun episode. The last thing I'll say, what I think will make for good episodes, and we'll see if this is one of them, is what is the information that the three of us are always asking for from one another? Like we all separately ask, like, yeah, hey, I'd love to see what you guys are doing for go-to-market. There's something else recently. We do, our performance teams do weekly reports. We just shared that. There's probably good episodes in the future. So depending on what people think of this one, this might be a more common format.
We did KPIs a few months back. I don't know what people thought about that one, but that was another one.
True. So we'll see. Any closing comments from you guys?
I liked it. What color shirt were you wearing next week?
Yeah, go back and forth between the light and dark.
More outfit coordination. Yeah. I like it. Awesome. Well, that's a wrap on the episode.
Sweet.
Thanks, guys. All right. Thank you again for listening. Hope you found this episode thankful. If you did, let us know on Twitter in the comments. We'll do more stuff like this where we'll share each other's internal documents and just chat through them. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors, Motion, Rich Panel, Aftercell, Prescient, Northbeam. As always, share this with your friends, your family, your pets, your colleagues, anyone who you think might be a marketing operator listener. We would appreciate. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.